Hello, I'm Ella, the time-traveling pescatarian, and I've just come back from Jorvik, where I've been hanging out with the Anglo-Scandinavians, more commonly known as the Vikings, who existed from around 790 to 1066. And I have an amazing meal that I've brought for you today, starting with infused mead. What you will need is a large glass bottle, preferably with some sort of lid, and to that you're going to add 3 tablespoons of hawthorn berries. To another bottle, 3 tablespoons of rosehip berries. And to my last bottle, I added 3 tablespoons of rowan berries. I'm using dried berries as it is easy for me to get, but if you have access to fresh, use those. You're going to want to add in about 450 milliliters of mead, or as much as can fill your bottle. Just want to make sure it's enough mead to fully cover all of the berries, as having the berries fully submerged in the alcohol will help prevent spoilage. You're going to want to close up the bottle, give it a good shake. I would recommend keeping them in the bottle for about 3 days to a week. The longer you keep them, the better the mead's going to taste, the more infused with berry flavor it's going to get. But be careful, adding fruit to the mead might add to greater fermentation and change the alcohol level. So just be mindful and don't keep it for too long. Next, we're going to make a snack plate. Okay, to give you an idea of where I've been, the buildings in Jorvik look more like Anglo-Saxon buildings than they do Scandinavian. Each home containing a large central hearth, which are edged with recycled Roman tiles, building stones or wooden planks, but the floor was simply made of packed earth. But back to the snack plate. I'm using a pear, but you don't have to use the fruits I use. They also eat bilberries and cherries, but these were the fruits that were in season when I was cooking. So pears, a handful of walnuts, a handful of raspberries, and I had to add hazelnuts. The Vikings loved hazelnuts, leaving their shells scattered all over the floor. Which reminds me, I think I'm going to steal one for myself. Now for the final course, we're going to make warm smoked salmon stew. For this, you're going to need a medium-sized pot, which to add 800 milliliters of water and bring to a boil. Once the water is boiling, you're going to want to add your already smoked salmon into the boiling water. The idea is to poach the salmon, but not for too long. It's only going to really be in the water for about 4 minutes. This is just to infuse the water with that smoked salmon fishy taste. After 4 minutes, you're going to want to take the pot off of the heat and pour out the boiling water into a bowl. Remember, you're going to want the water, so save the water, do not throw it out, because we will use the water later in the recipe. You're also going to want to save the now poached smoked salmon. Just put it on a plate and save it for later. Since it's been smoked, it's already cooked, so you don't need to worry about it too much. I just have to take off the skin. But to give you more ideas about the Anglo-Scandinavians, they weren't just going a Viking and raiding all over Britain. They also were avid crafters, manufacturing wooden spoons and bowls, and also doing a lot of metalwork, creating knives and tools to dress accessories, which were done at like a manufacturer level, leading to avid trade, as the Vikings, even before settling in Jorvik, were also avid traders, not just raiders. So, to a pot, you're going to want to add 30 grams of butter. If you don't want to use butter, you can also use hemp or linseed oil. To the already melted butter, you're going to add 2 leeks. And 100 grams of peas. These were the main vegetables that the Anglo-Scandinavians ate. You can also add celery if you want, but I just did leeks and peas. You're going to want to cook down the leeks until they're transparent and much smaller in volume, and the peas have become soft, where you're able to easily crush it against the pot with the back of your spoon. This should take about 5 to 10 minutes. After they have wilted down, you're going to want to add your 250 grams of pearl barley, along with 2 tablespoons of that saved fish water. You're going to then want to cook it all together until that 2 tablespoons of liquid is fully absorbed into the pearled barley. Once the liquid is fully absorbed, you're going to then add half of your remaining fish water, which should be about 400 milliliters. You're going to then cook until all of the water is absorbed into the pearled barley. Once all the water is again absorbed into the pearled barley, you're going to add the rest of your fish water. And again, you're going to cook until all the water is absorbed. The pearl barley should have expanded in size, become soft, and the whole thing should be like of a stewy texture. You're going to want to add in your poached salmon. You don't have to use salmon, you can use herring or eel if you'd rather. About 1.5 tablespoons of dill. And a half tablespoon of poppy seeds. You can also add celery seeds if you wish. These were common seasonings used by the Anglo-Scandinavians. Give it a good mix. And then your Anglo-Scandinavian meal is completed. So let's see what our surprise guest thinks of it. So today I have with me Anna Henriksen Shea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll take that as a no, but we'll try.
Yeah, Henriksen Shea.
But who is a MA Public History student at Royal Holloway and is the author and producer of a book.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain the book?
Oh, it's just a simplified retelling of one of the Icelandic sagas for kids.
What's it called?
It's literally just called Saga of Eirik the Red's simplified version with facts. It wasn't very creative on my part, but yeah.
It gets to the point.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So today I have made you an Anglo-Scandinavian meal, which, so for the video title is gonna say Viking.
Yeah.
But do you want to help me give an explanation of why I shouldn't really use the phrase Viking for like the people settled in Britain?
Okay, yeah, well, because Viking refers to just a group of people who were part-time warriors, who were like seafaring warriors. So it doesn't refer to like the famous, I don't know if it's a famous quote, but it's a quote I know. It's all Vikings are Norsemen, but not all Norsemen are Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
So like most of the times people, especially if they settled in like Britain or Iceland or Greenland, if they stopped being seafaring warriors, they stopped being called Vikings. So that's why like you're referring to them as like Anglo-Scandinavians, because they're British Scandinavians. So yeah, they're no longer Vikings. So yeah,
because a lot of them like started off as Vikings, like that's how they originally get to the British Isles. But like they were, even I was reading yesterday, like even from like the beginning of them settling, like they wanted to settle in Britain because there isn't much arable land.
Yeah, that was the point. Like most of the workable land in Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, wherever they came from, one of the three, was either already way too overworked or occupied already by other ones. So they needed to find new land that they could work, and you know, they heard the exploits of England and they said, maybe. So they went and they really just wanted to settle because they just wanted to farm and they wanted to live. That's really all they wanted to do. They just wanted a place where they could live and settle.
Most of my recipes today I got through archaeological means rather than written documents, just because there's not much surviving from that time period in Britain or in Scandinavia.
Yeah, because I mean, unlike Britain at least had written sources, but Scandinavian didn't have any like written sources. Like most of the stuff about them is from foreigners, like either Brits or like Germans.
Yeah, because most of the stuff we know about the Vikings' time in Britain is from British records with the English Chronicles.
Yeah, the major one that has most of the information about the Viking time in England is the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, which was obviously majorly contributed by Alfred the Great, because he was a big one dealing with them and like making peace with some of the big names.
So, speaking of food, I feel bad just leaving you staring at it. Shall we try some things?
Yes.
Alright, so what we're going to start with first is mead, because it's Vikings. I felt like it was only applicable.
I mean, I love it.
So, we have 3 types of mead. One is rosehip, hawthorn, and rowan, which they're all native-ish. Like, they were in Britain at the time.
Okay.
And they were very commonly found. Because the Vikings, as you can see by the fruit plate and nut plate, they loved eating fruits and nuts. There's so much archaeological evidence of them just, like, nuts, like seeds, and hazelnut, like, shells just littering the ground.
Yeah, we were a nutty bunch. Sorry, I had to throw in a joke. Yeah, we kind of got food. I say we like I was one of them.
Yeah,
oh my God.
You were living that Anglo-Scandinavian
I'm actually thousands of years old. I'm so much. I moisturize every day. Yeah, again, like we, like some of the fruit and nuts that existed in Britain didn't exist in Scandinavia. So like when we found something like that, we kind of went, ooh. So,
But
yeah.
which one do you want to start with?
I'm gonna try this one.
Okay. I'll just give you a little sip.
Yeah.
There you go. I'll join you. I have a thing if you want to take the berry out after taking a sip, but it's up to you.
I have my own two open. Okay.
Alright, cheers.
Cheers.
It's just fruity mead.
Yeah, it's not bad.
No,
I normally don't like mead, but these are pretty good.
no, because they're fruity. It
Yeah.
cuts the like alcohol-y taste.
Not even that, because the honey taste. Oh my
Oh, that they loved honey.
honey. Yeah.
Honey's in everything. Because I'm also imagining that they were really into like doing this sort of thing just because it preserves the fruit.
Yeah. I mean, we were, again, let me go back to same day. They were very big into preserving fish and fruit and vegetables, stuff like that. Even on places that were like close to where they could get fish at the ready. And they would use salt either from the sea. I don't know exactly how they strained the salt from the sea, but they did.
I know like in Britain, way back in the day, there was like, they would do a stick method where they put a stick in and let it dissolve. But also I know like modern Scandinavian, it's like the boil method.
Yeah, modern Scandinavians still love their preserved and dried fish. I do not get it, but to each their own, I guess. But yeah, they either got it directly from the sea or they would take dried seaweed and get the salt from the dried seaweed and then use the salt to preserve like the fish and the fruit, whatever they can.
Speaking of preserved fish, let's talk about what I have made for the main course. It's pea and leek in stew with rolled barley, dill, but the ones I feel like are still like really Scandinavian even nowadays it's with warm smoked salmon and dill.
Yeah, the salmon is very Scandinavian.
But even though York, because most of these recipes I got from the Jorvik Center.
Yeah.
I was looking through, they're really into doing Anglo-Scandinavian research up in York and do amazing work, but they were listing like all of the like archaeological foods that they found, and salmon was like one of the main things.
Yeah, because I don't remember, it wasn't, because most of the Scandinavians that came to Britain were Danish, more so than Norwegian and Swedish. And like nowadays in Scandinavia, like if you get salmon in one of those countries, you're gonna get Norwegian salmon from the very top, like near the Arctic Circle or whatever. But like back then, the Danish didn't have access to salmon, so when they came over here, and they found like salmon in rivers, they were like, oh, what's this? So they were very like interested in the fish that they could get from rivers in Britain that they were not used to.
And also interesting thing is they didn't pick the bones out before eating them. There's a lot of evidence of them just eating fish. I've picked the bones off. There's no,
I know, so
there's no bones. I'm going for like historical realism rather than accuracy.
I mean, hey, you're not Scandinavian, so you don't need to eat things.
But there's archaeological evidence because there's like gnawing marks on these fish bones showing that they like ate the bones and like it fully passed through.
God, I do.
All right, ready to try it?
Yes, very excited. Okay, it's really good.
It's really good. Like it's so much better than you think it will be.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
I don't know what the poppy seeds are doing, but the archaeological evidence was that they used it as seasoning.
Kidding.
There was an arable land in a lot of these Scandinavian countries, so they had to figure out like some way of making money, and like the way they figured it out was through like raiding, but they also were avid traders. Like they were really into trading, which I think is part of the reason like this dish is sort of a combination of stuff they would have found in Britain at the time, but also like a lot of techniques and stuff they would have brought in from Scandinavia. We're saying like the evidence from this period is like you have the archaeological evidence, which is like accurate and reliable to a point, like as all archaeological evidence is, but the like actual stuff from the period, like it's all written either like hundreds of years after, by not the people involved through hearsay.
Exactly. Like most of the stuff about the Vikings in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, like if you're trying to get the Scandinavian perspective of them being in England, you have to take it with a grain of salt because it's written from one perspective by people who viewed them as the enemy. And there was always a political motivation behind those writings. Like,
weren't all the writings, they were all sponsored by the crown.
Yeah, like Alfred the Great was so concerned about making sure that there was a written chronicle about Wessex and Mercia and East Anglia and Northumbria. So he was like the driving force behind this chronicle. And, you know, he didn't have the greatest relationship with the Vikings. I mean, they attacked him so many times. They forced him to go into hiding for months.
Yeah.
So obviously everything in that chronicle is going to be a little biased, and it's going to be like, oh, look at how good the English are, you know?
Back to like the food, we talked earlier, there were like, here I feel like they would probably like preserve fruits in like alcohol because like alcohol just kills germs, but they also just really like snacking on fruit and nuts. So we have here a selection of fruit and nuts which aren't that unusual for modern times. Like they're all very like modern fruits. We have pears, raspberries, hazelnuts, and walnuts. But they loved munching on them. I was trying to find a snack, and it was really hard because all they snacked on was just fruit and nuts.
Fruit and nut.
So which one do you want to start with?
A pear. I haven't had one in a long time.
I remember you saying, because I talked to you when I was trying to decide the menu, that this is still very common in Scandinavia today.
Yeah. I mean, even today in Scandinavia, like, whew, there's a lot of skin on that. So, back during the Viking Age, Scandinavians only ate 2 meals a day. And like, I don't want to say even now that's still kind of the same case, but like, it is very the same case because like a lot of their like breakfast and lunch is like it's small. Like it's like pieces of cheese, like 2 pieces of rye bread with like cheese and salami on top. Or like they're snacking on this for lunch. Like it's still very common.
Yeah.
You know, healthy, I guess.
But I also found it really interesting doing my research is that they ate like the wildest fruits. That's why I like the fruits I chose for the mead. I chose them because they're really hard to find.
Sanitation and hygiene wasn't where it is today. Thank God. But the Vikings and the Scandinavians in general were some of the cleanest people during that time. Yeah. Even though, you know, almost every other peoples in the world considered them, you know, like pagan and heathen and, you know, crazy and not civilized.
Yeah.
They were actually more hygienic than most of the people in the world. So, who's uncivilized now?
So it's like, speaking of punishment, like the Vikings were famous for being punished, like for their elaborate punishments, especially to non-Vikings. Like the famous one I can think of is was some Viking overthrew the throne of some English king and did the bloody eagle, where it like cracked open the ribs and like put the lungs out so it looked like an eagle. And I think I was watching a lecture, and apparently I can't remember the exact wording, but someone was like, he was very uncomfortable before he died. And I was like, that's one way to put it.
That's a great way to put your lungs on the outside of your body. It's a great way to say how he felt. But yeah, like Scandinavians in general weren't like cruel, brutal people, but like the Vikings, especially when they were raiding and they were doing things, and I don't want to put it on them being pagan, because it's not a bad thing to be pagan, but a lot of them a lot of like their rituals tied into a lot of their punishments, especially against Christians, were because they were Christian. Like they did sometimes put people, especially if they were priests, they did put them up on a cross exactly like Jesus, and like nail it through the hands and just put them outside and just let them hang there.
I want to hear your final thoughts, especially since you sort of referenced it. Like, what is your opinion about like how Vikings and like Anglo-Scandinavians, or just like this, like Scandinavians in general, were of the time were depicted in media today? Like, you mentioned very much like you're strongly against the horn hats.
I'm so against the horn hats. So against the horn hats.
But it's also like the punishments were like they are like Hollywood woodified.
Yeah. So I mean I'm a sucker for a historical TV show or movie.
Who is it?
Exactly. I'm also a sucker for historical fiction books, obviously. And I mean, I do thoroughly enjoy, there's one particular Viking/Danish show that I enjoy very thoroughly. It's on Netflix. I don't want to say it because I don't want you to get like copyrighted. I don't know if that's a thing.
I don't think you get copyrighted for names.
Okay, so it's called The Last Kingdom, and it's based off of a book, and it's, you know, it's a TV show, and I like that one very much. But there's a lot of, that just like the history show Vikings and like its sequel Vikings Valhalla, or like, you know, I think there was a movie with like Alexander Skarsgård called like The Northman or something.
Yeah.
I don't even know. And I believe that they play fast and loose with the history. Like they take like the big names, like the Vikings goes with like the main person's like Ragnar Lothbrok, which was a real person, and so were his sons, because like his sons were two of the ones who led the great heathen army over to England.
Yeah.
So they were real people, but like they take like the big stuff, and then aren't really focusing on like the smaller down facts, which, you know, I guess everything can't be 100% historically accurate, but I think I would rather prefer more things be historically accurate than the show be like, watch this, I'm doing this just for the TV. Like, this is just for the TV. Like, this never happened. I would like to say, for the final in this video, Christopher Columbus did not discover North America first. Leif Erikson did it 500 years before. He just landed in Canada and decided not to stay.
But they took Greenland.
There's like 500 people who live there now. Like that's not an achievement. Norse discovered North America first. They just didn't settle it. So Christopher Columbus Day should in fact be Leif Erikson Day. Plain and simple.
Columbus didn't settle it.
No, but why do we celebrate Christopher Columbus Day then?
Italian Americans.
There are so many Scandinavian Americans. Celebrate Leif Erikson Day. We're so much better.
Alright. Thank you for coming along. I hope you enjoyed.
I had a great time.
Tasting some Anglo-Scandinavian food.
Dude, we're so good.
It's really good. I'm really vibing with it.
I'm so good.
One last time, can you tell them what book you're working on after you chew?
Thank you. Okay. I'm working on, or almost done at this time, but I'm working on a simplified retelling of the Saga of Eirik the Red. So like one of, because there were quite a few Icelandic sagas, so this is one of the Vinland sagas. So like two of the Icelandic one of the two Icelandic sagas that are like most rooted in like truth and actual history rather than like myth.
Yeah.
So I'm like simplifying it down. And then there's like historical facts.
Very fun.
Yeah. Super fun.
And that's it.